Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, Mathmachine and The Shark. Today is our 144th episode, and we're talking about the 1985 TV special, Sweet Sea. So, let's get things started.
Lupin the Third! Lupin the... Wait a minute. But this is TMS! How can this not be Lupin the Third?
We're gonna go ahead and spoil things a little bit. This episode is sweet.
Yeah. Nice.
Perfect. Go ahead, Shark.
You say it's sweet? I did not see that coming.
Oh my gosh.
Well, now that we're done with the bad pun corner. So basically, in the 80s, there were many cartoons based on toy lines trying to be the next Care Bears, He-Man, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. However, for every one of those that was a huge success, there were probably like 5,000 of them that weren't. And today, we're talking about one of those, Sweet Sea. Now, Sweet Sea was based on a series of mermaid dolls with floaties that kids were used to play in the bathtub with. And, spoiler alert, this show is far superior than any amount of fun you could have had with one of those bath toys, because, man, this is really something else.
I will say for the toy, at least, it does get across what it's trying to do. It looks endearing. I can definitely see a little kid in like the 80s playing with this bath toy. Like little kid. But yeah, I definitely have to agree. The show was a lot better, and you'll see why soon enough.
Yeah, to put it simple, you seen any like baby toy but with a mermaid instead of legs? And it's every single one of these you have seen. The toys are easily one of the most generic things ever made.
Which makes the fact that we got this out of it even more amazing, because the special begins with the pearl landing in the water, which sprouts into a flower and creates the title card. And the animation for this looks absolutely beautiful. Like, well, I'm not just saying that out of hyperbole. This is legitimately one of the most beautifully animated toy commercials. This was done by TMS Entertainment, which did many great things, including Lupin the Third, under their belt rather. And yeah, it really looks amazing. And again, for 1985, this show had a huge anime slant to it. It's really interesting.
So with Japan, when they typically do pilots or OVAs, there is a bit more of a higher production quality to it than we would expect from here in the West, where they tend to do lower quality just to get the idea of the thing across before they actually give it a budget. As I was watching this, yeah, it is amazingly well animated. And then I kind of compared it to another series that was coming out at the same time that was doing a very similar thing, and it just struck me really hard how much better this is than what other similar things were doing. I compared it 1-to-1 to the Snorks, and it is night and day, the animation quality difference.
Definitely. This that has such an amazing design. You feel like it's underwater. You feel like the magic of it, which makes the fact that this is a one-off even stranger in a way.
I see stuff like serendipity and happiness, and then I look at this and I just think, good lord, why did they not try any harder than this? Then I remember that this was the only thing that was ever released. It was higher budget, and then I also see the toy, which isn't bad, like I said, but yeah, this show right here absolutely blew them out of the water. And yes, I do remember the Snorks, though I haven't seen all of them in a while. This definitely blows the Snorks out of the water, no pun intended.
We then see Sweet Sea, our titular character, riding on her seahorse Sea Star while a theme song plays about her and her underwater wonderland. We then see her play with several sea creatures, and we then cut to the Coral Kingdom, which looks like an underwater city as we see various fish and sea creatures like jellyfish go about their day. As a children's chorus kicks in, we cut to a bunch of crabs clacking their claws, and hey, that's one other thing you can say about this show. They invented the crab rave 30 years early.
Yeah. Also, I know this was made by the same people who made Lupin the Third, but to be honest, looking at the stills and everything, this would not be out of place in something like One Piece, which this entire Coral Kingdom kind of reminds me of Ryugu Kingdom from One Piece. If it was taken over by Big Mom and all the fish were like weird looking, cartoonish looking things. Like if you look at a still from One Piece and you look at this, you can literally not tell the two apart that much.
We cut to Sweet Sea looking up at a ball of light before it turns into a star with a face. We then see two flounders, one male with a pipe and one female with a hat, as they swim away and have Ace of Spades on their bodies. Obviously, this is because they don't share our greed and that's the only card they need. The two flounder then swim up to a castle as a clam opens up to reveal a giant pearl which shines like a disco ball. And if this sounds strange, it's because these are literally scenes that we see later on in the special, in some cases only 30 seconds from now, which makes reusing them for the intro feel kind of strange, I'm not going to lie. Maybe they didn't want to have to redo more animation for this, but regardless, it is kind of weird that they use scenes that literally happen right after the theme song. So it's like you finally get the context as to what that meant and what that meant. And it's definitely an interesting choice there.
Look, if you think it's weird, there's just one simple explanation. It's an anime from the 80s.
While Toei was going full ham hock with Dragon Ball, we got TMS over here doing Lupin and Sweet Sea.
The intro ends with Sweet Sea sitting on a palm tree, which cuts to her riding off on Sea Star. After the title card, we see bubbles float up from the bottom of the screen. Of course, we get the opening narration, which, of course, we know how it goes. The mysteries of the sea. Here we see the Coral Kingdom, home to one of my favorite undersea creatures, Sweet Sea. Yes, of course she lives in a castle, you silly.
Yeah, you had to go there.
The narrator is not the French narrator, sadly, but it is a woman who says that underneath the sea, there is a magical undersea kingdom. And we then get the narration of the flounder and the clam that I just mentioned repeat again. And it makes as little context here as it did in the opening theme, which is interesting. A group of fish then swim in and out of the clam's mouth, going past the pearl as they do so. The narrator then says that the happiest child in the kingdom is Sweet Sea, as you see her riding on Sea Star, and we then get something that is just absolutely amazing for an 80s toy commercial. We get a one-shot of her riding through various backgrounds, and this is so fluidly animated. Like, I imagine trying to, like, the Care Bear animators doing this and having their heads explode. And Nelvana was not a bad studio by any stretch of the imagination, but this is amazing because it literally is just a one unbroken take of her just riding through various landscapes and that. And I'm honest, if you were a little kid and you saw this, you'd be sold just because how beautiful this looks.
Yeah. Like, eat your heart out, MLP, and again, serendipity. Yeah, this 100% would have sold me as a kid. Like, The Last Unicorn also kind of won me over on it sort of thing as well. But again, this blew it out of the water, in my opinion. It's not bad, but I can definitely see this being a full-fledged TV series and kind of making stuff like that look a little pale in comparison. Anyways, Math?
Are you talking about a little kid? I'm a full-age 30-something adult, and I'm sold.
We then cut to Sweet Sea in a garden, cutting flowers to pick them. All of a sudden, a goldfish appears, flanked by a literal catfish and dogfish, which get ready for really bad puns, because that's one of the things that this special really loves to do. The goldfish, Goldie, says that Sweet Sea is always working and asks her to go play with them. Sweet Sea says that she can't as she has to tend to the royal gardens. Sea Star agrees with her and laughs, and his voice really stuck out to me because his voice is like a Don Knotts impression, which I absolutely did not get that vibe just looking at. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, other than the seahorse, because that threw me for a loop too. One thing I noticed very quickly in this is an 80s toy commercial anime production. The voice cast in this is really good. Like, they are doing far and beyond what I would expect from that era. Hell, they're doing levels that I would think are impressive by today's standard, let alone the 80s.
And there's one voice actor, or rather actress in particular, that we're going to get to, and she's a good one. But Sweet Sea then waters the flowers, causing them to rise up to the sky. And again, it does feel weird that we literally just saw this not less than like a minute ago. So to see it again repeated does feel a little strange, but I don't want to keep repeating myself. So Mud Puppy, the dogfish, says that there's no fun in being a princess if you have to work. Persia, the catfish, agrees and asks Sweet Sea to play some water polo with them. Goldie says that they'll race her to the polo field as they swim off, causing her flowers to be scattered everywhere as Sea Star tells them to wait up. We then cut to the Coral Kingdom castle, where King and Queen Neptune are waiting for Sweet Sea, wondering what is taking her so long. Sweet Sea better watch out here because King Neptune can't hang around all day. SpongeBob's going to pull the golden spatula out of the grease. Queen Neptune rocks the cradle of Brooke, her baby sister, as King Neptune goes to see what's taking so long. We then cut to Sweet Sea playing polo with the others as they chase after her. And one thing to note here is that this game is definitely not a fair one because Sweet Sea gets to ride in her seahorse while the other three have to run up against her, which definitely is not fair at all. Even if it is 3 against 1, she is the steed and the other ones don't.
The stuff that royalty gets you.
Sweet Sea manages to avoid Goldie and Persia as she prepares to hit the pearl ball into the goal. Mud Puppy, meanwhile, kicks up sand, causing Sea Star to smash to the goal. And in a joke that actually got a good smirk out of me, you have the old cartoon swirling star effect, but in this case, the swirling stars are starfish. And that actually gave a little smirk at me. It was like, okay, you know what you're doing here. You want to have fun with this. Oh, go ahead, Math.
So, I cannot undersell how good the animation for this water polo match is. This is a 15, 20-second throwaway thing that they animated to a level that you would expect from like a shonen series that's doing an epic battle. Again, I am not joking when I say that you could put this up against something made by Trigger and it would be that level. It is astounding that they went this hard on this show.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, one little lip sync error aside, I will agree that this definitely looks amazing, even for a animated pilot in the 80s.
I think the lip sync looks really good, to be honest. I did not see any errors with it at all. Maybe it's just me, but to me it looked pretty good. King Neptune arrives as he says, "Is this how you tend to the royal gardens?" And he holds up the flower basket with the flowers basically flying everywhere. Sweet Sea apologizes as King Neptune says that apologizing won't help the flowers, then tells her to come to the castle and they'll discuss this. And man, between her and Ariel, King Neptune, he better get his act together.
Yeah, or King Neptune from SpongeBob, because how he treats his daughter ain't any better either.
Yep, I was about to mention her. I was about to mention her as well.
Sweet Sea's friends are saddened by this, with Goldie saying they only wanted Sweet Sea to have some fun, with the seahorse retorting, "Some fun!" We then cut to the castle as King Neptune tells her that one day she will rule the kingdom and all the happiness on the civilians will depend on her. To teach her this, King Neptune decides to give her the most precious item in all the realm. We then see a jellyfish butler who, weirdly enough, he's drawn in a really realistic style. One that actually kind of clashes with the rest of the art style. And I don't know if they had a different design template for this guy, but he's only on screen for a second. But man, for the second he is on screen, it is weird. The jellyfish butler gives the king a clamshell box as he shows it is the royal necklace. Sweet Sea says it is beautiful, as King Neptune tells her to never let it out of her sight. We then cut to Sea Star looking at the necklace and saying how beautiful it is, as he does some rather interesting wild takes into the camera, which I think was done literally so the animators could show off how good they are, because again, for an 80s toy commercial made to sell a cheap bath toy, this thing has no right looking as good as it does. And again, we don't want to sound like broken records, but if you haven't seen it, you owe it to check it out, just to watch it, because this is a feast for the eyes.
I gotta agree. Every ounce of it is animated so fluently. It almost feels like you're underwater and you're running your hands through a current of brine or something like that. It is just that amazing. Given the fact that this is a underwater pilot, that would not surprise me if that was their intent all along.
Sweet Sea says they have to take care of it, as Sea Star noticed how the necklace sparkles. He says that it's almost like dancing, as Sweet Sea realizes that today is the ballet recital, and she rides off to the city. Here we get an establishing shot of the city, which showcases just how beautiful the backgrounds look, because much like SpongeBob SquarePants, everything in this is aquatic, and you really get the feel of that. They didn't just do a Flintstones thing and had oh, it's a shop, but it's underwater. They actually made everything feel like it comes from underwater. It's all made out of coral, or it's all made out of what you'd find in a reef. It really is amazing. We then cut to the interior of the Surfside Boutique, where Sweet Sea twirls around her tutu, saying how much she loves it, as the owner says that it costs 12 sand dollars. And at this point, I was like, okay, here's the marketing ploy of the special. Because I can imagine little kids seeing this and be all like, Mommy, Mommy, I want the Sweet Sea with the tutu too. But the owner, who is a jellyfish woman who very much looks like one of the jellyfish sisters from Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which does make me almost wonder, did they base the design on this animated short?
Yeah, I can see it now. I can actually, yeah.
I would not be surprised if the art director actually based it a little bit on this short. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, she also gets a little bit of Splatoon vibes of Jalonzo from the first Splatoon game. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if her tendrils extended out, or if she felt the ground with them as well, like Jalonzo. Which
the jellyfish woman says that it looks wonderful, and Sweet Sea tells her to deliver it to the Seashell Theater. After another establishing shot, we then cut to the submarine sweet shop as a pair of twin Edwin walruses, try saying that 5 times fast, ask her if she wants some sweets for her sweet tooth. Sweet Sea and Sweet Sour enter the candy shop as the shopkeepers offer her Octopops, marshmallows, and peanut butter and jellyfish, as she instead asks for saltwater taffy. And yep, more of those wonderful, wonderful underwater puns.
This must be Mr. Frosty's long cousin he never tells Kirby about.
Yep. If only he opened up a candy shop instead of working for DDD. The 2 walruses rush off and begin to sample their wares, telling her she'd either get the green kind of taffy or the purple kind of taffy, obviously calling back to that great pink versus blue fight from Sleeping Beauty, while they both sample their respective favorite types of taffy. When she eventually asks for both, the walruses both shrug their shoulders and say that they ate all their inventory, and when it comes to saltwater taffy, we're our own best customers!
So this is one of the things in this, is that the jokes you can kind of see coming a mile away, but because it is so well animated, in the record again, the delivery on them is so good that it doesn't matter that you can see it coming, because it still sells it incredibly well.
Exactly. It's one of those things where you could actually put this on mute and just watch it just for the visuals, and you will have a wonderful time with this. Sweet Sea then says that's okay, as it's hard to dance on a full stomach as she leaves. The 2 walruses then begin arguing with each other again that they'll bring either coral candy or kipper kisses. We then cut to outside the Coral Kingdom, as the narrator says that there is one creature who despises the citizens of the Coral Kingdom and lives in a sunken pirate ship. It turns out to be none other than Plankton. Oh, I'm sorry. It turns out to be Sheba the Sea Serpent. And yeah, this is why we are discussing this short film, because Sheba is a female sea serpent. She has purple scales with a shock of red hair that really does remind you of Bell Bottoms from Minions Rise of Gru. It really feels so close to it that it actually made me wonder, did Minions Rise of Gru take the color design from this? Because it's too close to be a coincidence.
Yeah, I definitely see what you mean. But yeah, out of everything in this movie, Sheba, hands down, is one of the more noteworthy things about it. Like, even more than Sweet Sea, even more than the sea critters. Like, the moment she is on screen, she steals the show. Quite literally and figuratively. She is an absolute diva, and she makes it known from the get-go. Further helped by the fact that she's voiced by none other than June Foray.
I think what really sets her up apart and makes her very notable is her design. Up to this point, every single character was like this cute little animal, or this cute, mermaid and all. Basically, everyone is like cute, so this character is not ugly, but like menacing, threatening, but still feels like part of the show. It's not like the jellyfish we mentioned earlier, where it feels like it's from a completely different world. You can tell Shiva is part of this world, but again, her design gets far away from the cute design we have seen so far, so she stands out. That really helps her stand out.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. And not only is it June Foray, it is June Foray doing the Witch Hazel voice. And you could tell right away, she is having a ball with this character. She is having so much fun doing this voice. Oh, go ahead, Math.
It's not. I don't think it's just us that are going to say that she is our favorite character in this thing. I think it was the animators as well, because you will notice as the special goes on, she has the most vivid expressions. She has the most dynamic motions. They had an incredible time just doing everything with her, and I think it's because they really liked her more than anything else in this. And that's saying a lot considering how good this is to begin with.
You can easily see why. And the fact that she's having such fun doing this, I love the little touches too, like her wearing jewelry, which really makes her stand out. The fact that her hair is almost constantly flowing because, again, she's underwater. The amount of time and effort it must have taken to do that. And they didn't have to do that. You didn't have to. You could have just had it be like a straight, like a frond in that. But no, her hair is always moving because she's underwater. And that is such a small, tiny touch. And yet it really shows how much effort they put in this, and I'm always glad to see that. Sheba then laughs that Sweet Sea is having a ballet recital, we better keep her on her toes, and she laughs evilly. Her assistant, Squidly, laughs with her before he stops and asks why they are laughing as well. And I will say this, Squidly obviously has a lot of issues because, as we know, he's going to curse his great-great-great-great-grandson tenfold because he can't play the clarinet.
See, he used it actually to work for Neptune, but then he sang a song about how the king is bad and the king's to blame, and he was banished and came across Sheba.
Honestly, I'd rather have Sheba than She-Ra. That would be a really interesting version.
Also true.
Sheba then says that they are laughing because she will take control of the kingdom as she twirls her hair. Squidly calls her King Sheba as she yells at him that she is Queen Sheba back to him. She says that when she takes over, it will be the end of, quote, all the happiness mush, and laughs. And yeah, we needed Sheba in happiness too, because maybe that show would have been actually interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, suck your heart out, pompousness. Still love you and all.
We then cut to a stadium filled with sea creatures, as Goldie says that they hope Sweet Sea doesn't forget her steps at the big ballet recital. Mud Puppy says, what's the big deal? All you have to do is spin around, and does so in his seat, then falls out of it. The conductor, a more realistic catfish, begins the music while various sea creatures all play different instruments. And I love the creativity here, you know? It really is something else, because we have the organ with the clam pipes being my personal favorite, but it really does feel like they had a lot of fun just coming up with new and unique ways of doing this. Because again, you gotta figure, this predates Little Mermaid by 4 years. So this is even before that was in development.
All that's missing is a rapping shark.
Yo, look at that teeth. What happens, though, is we cut to Sweet Sea backstage as she says that she's nervous because she hasn't danced in front of an audience as Sea Star tries to comfort her. We then cut to Sheba saying that Sweet Sea will find there was a lot more to worry about and laughs evilly. Squidly asks what she means by this, as Sheba says that the royal necklace will be hers no matter what. And here we get the best part of the show, because we already had, great moments with Sheba, but now we get a musical number. And I think this is June Foray voicing her, and she's not using the Witch Hazel voice to sing, which is good, because that would be a little bit too noisy, shall we say. But if that is June Foray actually singing Sheba's part, she does a fabulous job with the character. And again, it's basically her singing about how she is the evilest creature under the sea, accompanied by sea urchins and sea bats and the like. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
It probably isn't hard to say, but I 100% agree that this is fairly brief, especially when it comes to villain songs. I absolutely enjoyed this. Like, ultimately reeks villainy, and unlike most other songs where she's like, oh, look at me, I'm absolutely devious. Can't you just tell my utter beauty is only rivaled by my sheer and vile disgust and villainy? She ultimately pulls it off a little better here. I mean, there are others who do it better and a lot more stylish, I will say, but Sheba absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one.
Again, I'm beating the animation is good horse. They, during the song, show Sheba's entire body, and it is constantly fluidly moving in that sort of serpent or eel way. And it looks so incredible that they were able to do that, and they did it so well. 80s toy commercial. What the fuck? But also at this point, I think I realized why I liked this special so much from here. seeing all of these creatures in this song in particular really helped click it. The creature designs in this remind me a lot of Dragon Quest creature designs, and that just instantly wins me over anytime.
The thing that's interesting too is you have two reasons why this is definitely made in the 80s, because number one, we see her swimming through an endless array of skulls, which I want to point out are human skulls, which raises a lot of questions without a second thought. Obviously, she runs the ice cream parlor for the sweet old lady. But yeah, the other thing too is that while she's seeing how scary she is, she swims through a giant skeleton and some kind of a sea monster as a group of sea bats and clam skulls on them sing the chorus with her. And again, you can really tell that they just let the animators do whatever they wanted with this. It's like the toy company basically said, hey, we got this doll, we got these floaty friends, do whatever you want with it, go. And they just went nuts. And we're glad that they did, because this is remarkable. And the thing that's really sad, there was no Sheba toy.
Yes, we were robbed.
She was literally invented just for this, which makes me wonder, if Sweet Sea was a success, would we eventually have gotten a toy of her? We can only speculate.
It's kind of funny thinking about that, because it will be like, oh, we have these toys of the Little Mermaid princess and her cute friends and all of that. Oh, you can also get the sea serpent that, according to this scene, has a big body count, including a gigantic one. So yeah, buy it for your kids, for your daughter will love it.
Honestly, the more I think about it, the more I think Shark might be onto something, because like we see so many skeletons, which she probably didn't kill for the most part. Like the giant one's a bit of a stretch even for Sheba, but everything else she probably either did or didn't. It's up in the air, but she probably has a pretty sizable body count.
She took a ride on Sandy's Whirly Bird.
She finished the song and laughs before swimming out of the cave. And what's interesting here is we cut back to Squidly saying how when it comes to rottenness, you take the fish cake. And it literally just cuts in the song back to her inside with Squidly. It almost feels like she took a break to have a villain song, which, to be fair, was definitely worth it because it was amazing and she was amazing. Sheba then demands for Squidly to get the necklace, as he says that he'll try, but I only have 10 hands. We then come back to the ballet, where we see a trio of adult ballerina mermaids dance, and much like the jellyfish butler, they only appear for like maybe 30 seconds, if that, maybe like 5 seconds. But their designs are so different compared to everybody else, even the human characters like King and Queen Neptune. These characters look like they came from a different series. It honestly makes me wonder if TMS ended up reusing model sheets from something else for these characters, because they look really out of place in this whole cartoonish atmosphere. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, like I said, this all feels like something that One Piece would come up with years later, like for Fishman Island. Because, like, if you look at the designs from this and you look at the designs from One Piece, you can honestly tell that Eiichiro Oda was absolutely inspired by stuff like this. Sure, Pirates of the Caribbean and a bunch of other cartoony stuff ultimately comes to mind, Tom and Jerry, but tell me, after looking at this and One Piece, that Oda was not inspired by Sweet Sea in some way, shape, or form.
This has happened a couple times before, but it's very prominent in this ballet scene. You'd think that, oh, okay, underwater ballet, what are they just going to spin around or like float in the air? No, they do this thing where they sometimes will walk on their tail fins. Normally think would be kind of a stupid idea, but the way that they don't utilize it all the time, they just have it for like a couple things here or there or to show some motions. That was really smart idea, and it's executed very strategically and very nicely.
Definitely. And like I say, the amount of detail with that is really something else, you know? Sweet Sea then tells Sea Star to watch the necklace as she goes out to dance. The audience of sea creatures all cheer as, from their royal box, King Neptune and Queen Neptune say how proud they are of her. Sweet Sea continues to dance as Sea Star watches him backstage. And I do like this. Squidly manages to get the necklace in the simplest way possible. He literally just sneaks up from behind and steals the necklace and swims off. It's so undercooked. It's honestly funny. The Seagrass is watching the show and he literally just snatched it from him. It's a simple way to do it, and yet it does work. It does work for like its target audience. Go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, for a studio that pretty much made, again, Lupin the Third, world's greatest anime thief, second only to maybe Diamond Jack or something like that, I gotta say that this is pretty low creativity for taking a piece of jewelry that's important to an entire kingdom. But again, ended target audience, so I'm not gonna give it too much flack.
Yep, especially for the time period it was done. Sea Star begins chasing Squidly, but Squidly says to "Get lost, horse face," and squirts ink into Sea Star's face, blinding him. Squidly then jokes about a seahorse who can't see and laughs as we cut to more of Sweet Sea's ballet recital. Sea Star, meanwhile, runs on stage, distracting Sweet Sea and causing her to fall down. Queen Neptune says that this is awful, as King Neptune says it's a disaster, as all of these sea creature musicians get knocked down as well. And this never would have happened if they hired Wolfgang Amadeus Tentacles and his yellow clarinet.
It sucks even more because after this, they were absolutely gonna do a Coral Kingdom rendition of Sweet Victory.
That would have been something to see. The stadium actually collapses from all of the chaos. Sweet Sea then asks Sea Star what happens, as he says that Squidly hold the necklace. Sweet Sea says how awful it is, as we cut to Sheba laughing and holding the necklace, saying how wonderful it is. And here's where we get something that really is kind of surprising, because the narrator says how the glow of the kingdom begins to fade, as Queen Neptune tells her it is getting cold out. Sweet Sea says that it was always will be, and it is all her fault as she runs inside and cries. King Neptune says that she would have made a fine ruler, but Queen Neptune says that she'll never have the chance. And yeah, this actually gets kind of dark for its target audience. I mean, granted, it's not like, mass extinction or anything, but the fact is that, like, shows like it actually doing something like this, it kind of surprised me, not gonna lie. I mean, is it like, other 80s children media from that era? No, but for like a thing to show little children, for them to buy their stupid little bath toys, the fact that they actually went there is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Like, sure, it's not exactly MLP and the smooths and or Scorpion and whatnot, and it most certainly isn't D&D and the downsides of being in an isekai for Lord only knows how long. This right here, actively showing people moving from the kingdom because it's lost all its hope, all its protection from its kingdom, and the fact that everything just looks so dreary and lifeless, that's quite the bold move for something like Sweet Sea to make, Anyway, Shark.
On second thought, maybe I should have brought out the thing that keeps our kingdom alive out in the open, easy to steal.
Neptune, you are a terrible father.
Maybe I shouldn't have entrusted the one object that keeps our kingdom running smoothly to my 5-year-old daughter. The narrator returns and says how the Coral Kingdom is now bleak and deserted, with all the stores closing up. Sea Star tells Sweet Sea that they could always go to the boutique, as the jellyfish owner is closing it up, saying that she is going to friendlier waters, and basically the Superstar Saga comparison earlier may have been more accurate than we thought, because this is exactly like what happened in Castle Beantown after Cackletta took over. Now, it's damaging, but kind of the same vibes here. Sweet Sea begs her to reconsider, as the jellyfish says that she's leaving now that Sheba rules. The Walrus twins do the same thing, and even Sweet Sea's friends are leaving. We do get one good joke, as Persia says that we'll write to her as soon as we can, and Mud Puppy says, yeah, as soon as we learn to write. And that's a good joke. Like I say, out of all the jokes, most of them are pretty obvious puns, but for the ones that do hit, they hit pretty good, not gonna lie. It is not time for joking, as one of the flowers rolls past her as she begins to cry, with Sea Star telling her to stop, as you'll make the ocean all salty. We then get another song all about how darkness rules the land, as Sweet Sea looks around the abandoned town, and then sits forlornly by a tree with a whale balloon that, I kid you not, it looks eerily like Whalmer from Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. The face on this whale balloon looks identical to that. It's just, instead of it being blue, it's colored white. But it's one of those things I had to do a double take, like, hey, wait a minute, because that is too weird.
Hey, TMS, how are you going to advertise our toy to these young 5-6-year-old girls? Don't worry, I got a great idea. I'm going to give them depression.
Sweet Sea then gets the idea to go to Lost Lagoon and get the necklace back. However, Sea Star is afraid to go as you see the two of them sailing past some thermal vents with some sea urchins peeking out and roaring her. We then see a trench as a set of glowing eyes appear and the sea bats attack. Sweet Sea says that she'll never find Sheba, as Sea Star says, "That's the best news I've heard all day." And it's like, my brother, your kingdom is a wreck. Everyone is leaving. No one is happy. Everyone is depressed, and yet you're fine with it? What's wrong with you, you little floaty seahorse?
I think the insanity is trying to set in for that seahorse. There's no saving him at this point.
I mean, he's supposed to be the cowardly sidekick that, I'd rather let everyone die than actually face the villain here.
I guess so, but here it just feels out of place.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I definitely agree that that's a little bit tasteless, even for that kind of character.
She then pulls out a conch shell and says that she knows someone who could help, and we know who it is. It's the magic conch. Oh, magic conch, what should we do to defeat Sheba the sea serpent? Nothing! All hail the magic conch!
Yeah. Shark.
Alternatively, is the conch signal. Must answer clarion call!
Oh man, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy definitely would have fit in with this art style as well.
Yeah, I think Shiva.
But it is not Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy nor the magic conch shell. It turns out to be a glowing starfish named Starfishy. And I will say this, Starfishy, we've talked about how good everything else looks in this cartoon, and it really, really looks good. Starfishy looks weird. He looks like he comes from like a toothpaste commercial. Like he's going to tell me to read a book or eat my vegetables. He doesn't feel, even for the more cartoony fish design, he feels awkward. And I don't know why. It really feels so strange.
All I can say is he looks like the Cars Jr. star.
Yeah.
Yeah, he also very much has that similar style again to One Piece because he looks so detailed here. He looks like this elderly, mature sea star. In a series like this, made by the same people who've made Lupin the Third, it's definitely a little telling. Sweet
Sea then tells Starfishy to lead them to Sheba as he does so, lighting the way. Sweet Sea then says she doesn't feel as scared with him around, as he says, "It is the things we can't see that frighten us the most." They then go just a few feet ahead as they then see the pirate ship, and Starfishy instantly leaves, which really makes his appearance in this just pointless, which makes me wonder, did they have a Starfishy toy? Because I know they had toys of the other three animal buddies, not to steal from Kirby there, but Goldie, Persia, and Mud Puppy were the other toys. But aside from them, it feels awkward. You know, they had this character just show up, help them along, and then just disappear without a word. We then cut to inside the pirate ship as Sweet Sea and Sea Star enter. Sheba, meanwhile, is wearing the necklace and demands to see herself in the mirror. Squidly arrives in the mirror as she starts posing in it, only for the mirror to break. And number one, this mirror has absolutely zero taste if he's going to break for a character as lovely as Sheba. And number two, we get the best joke of the special, because Squidly then says, "Opinions held by this mirror does not reflect that of the holder." And again, it's the way he says that is just so funny. It actually caught me off guard. Like I say, the writing for this show, it's not like My Little Pony or anything like that, but compared to a lot of TV shows based on toys that came out of the time, this thing has such better writing too than it had any right to be. Oh, go ahead, Ahmed.
So it's not just the joke itself is really good, which it is. It's the delivery of it. It's the animation surrounding it. It's the facial expressions they use for it. That Sheba initially looks flabbergasted at first, and she just gets progressively angrier as he talks. Every bit of that joke was perfection in animated form, and it was, because of all that combined, it is one of the funniest jokes I have heard and seen in a long time.
Yeah. Also, a little bit of a character touch with Sheba. Not once does she do anything remotely rough to her sidekick. She absolutely has every opportunity to, and within good reason, Sheba 100% has very much restraint if she is able to put up with someone like Whitley's antics. He definitely makes up for it by doing a bunch of stuff for her and actually succeeding, which she has every right to also be patient with him because of that. Sheba is one of those villains who is basically all bark, but that bark has purpose behind it, if that makes any sense.
I kind of get what you're trying to say.
Yep.
Also, I'm going to double back on what Lud said because I kind of, in the sense, don't get this mirror joke from the base of it because in this podcast, we talk about a lot of cute characters or well-designed characters. I think that she might have been animated a little bit too well. Her design may have been done too good because she is one of the few characters in this podcast we're going to talk about that's actually attractive. So I don't get it.
Compare that to Sweet Sea and the other sea critters, and you actually get a sea creature who's not only beautiful, but actually puts the main character's looks to shame. No shade or anything. That is a girl that, with all due respect, we would tap a lot more.
Sheba is probably the most sensually designed reptilian character we have discussed in a while. Or deliberately sensual, rather, because she looks incredible. Like, the design of this is absolutely amazing. They really, really had a lot of fun with her. Sweet Sea and Sea Star then fall from the ceiling and they land in two thermal vents. Sheba then turns to look at them and she then leers at Sweet Sea, telling her that it's nice of you to drop in. It's not often we get royalty here, as she and Squidly laugh evilly. The pair then leave with Sea Star saying that we'll come back when you're in a better mood. Sheba then demands that Squidly follows them. It turns out that Squidly quickly catches up to them and manages to trap them in a cage made of his own tentacles. And he could do all this, and yet he can't play the clarinet.
So what I really liked about when Sweet Sea dropped in is, first of all, the turn animation for Sheba, again, I'm sorry, being that horse, is so well done. But then when you do the close-up of her face as she is talking, you can see the reflection of the two characters that dropped in her eyes. That is such a good detail they didn't need to do, and it makes her look so menacing and terrifying.
And again, just that one shot of her turning, like you said, it looks so good. It really is something else. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, also, Squidly transforming into a torpedo and becoming a giant cage is just amazing. This is Sheba's sidekick we're talking about. He is quite possibly the most dynamic character in this entire thing, and he's just the villain's lackey. We'd see, how do you manage to pull that off?
Squidly puts them all on the deck of the ship as Sheba approaches them evilly, before then getting blocked by Goldie and Mud Puppy. They say that they changed their minds and came back to help her, as Sheba sarcastically asks how they plan to free her. Persia then arrives and uses her tail to tickle Squidly, causing him to release them. The group all then manage to get away as Squidly shoots ink out of his mouth. When he shoots the ink out of his mouth, he does that thing that's often common in anime. When squid do that, their mouths become like tubes. Mud Puppy then decides to kick up sand again, sending the ink back to Squidly, who says he can't see as he stumbles around. He then manages to crash into Sheba as they get entangled in each other. And Sweet Sea then picks up the necklace and puts it back on. And this is the last we see of Sheba, and it's definitely a really silly defeat. I feel like you could have come up with something a little bit more serious at the same time, probably would clash with the tone. This is actually the last, sadly, we see of Sheba in the short as well, which really makes me wonder if they made a show, what they would have done with her. She probably would have been like the Gargamel of it, but oh well, what could have been.
I mean, it makes kind of sense because, well, one is a squid with long tentacles, the other one is a sea serpent, so getting entangled in each other kind of makes sense.
So, two things. First, the joke about how Sheba says, as soon as we get you untie yourself from me, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. He says, oh, that's why it's going to take weeks, maybe even months. Great joke there. And second, the lackey got to entangle himself around Sheba. I'm going to quote the Yu-Gi-Oh meme. It should have been me, not him.
To be honest, I'm sure it'll probably take even less time to get free than that, but seeing this and so much from this entire show actually made me curious as to what a show like this would have been about, and I really am a little sad that this didn't do very well. to warrant that. But yeah, Shiba and Squidly definitely made this worth it.
Literally, as soon as Sweet Sea picks up the necklace and puts it on, the Coral Kingdom instantly goes back to normal. All the fish return, they open the shops, which really raises a lot of questions about how this world works in a way, if it could literally just be affected by something so simple. It turns out that the fish actually returned for a different reason. Hey, look! Free Krabby Patties! No, wait! You gotta pay for those! Who's in play at the mind? Is it me? Is it me, Mr. Krabs? Boys, no! And that is the last SpongeBob reference we're gonna make. And yeah, this had a SpongeBob reference ratio much higher than usual, but it's an underwater show, okay? Let us have this.
Yes.
The short film ends almost immediately after, with Sweet Sea playing with their friends and dancing, as the narrator says that all of its inhabitants were then bathed in love, happiness, and friendship. And yeah, that is it. And what's interesting about this is that the Sweet Sea special apparently aired in 1985 and quickly fell into a real obscurity. It only got a limited VHS release, and the toys themselves fared even worse because nowadays, in mint condition, in box, unopened, completely untouched since 1985, these Sweet Sea toys are going for $700.
Oof.
That's how rare these things are because obviously they did not sell. Maybe if they had some Shiba toys, they could have sold.
Yeah, but imagine how much those will cost now.
Oh, yeah, especially amongst collectors.
Yeah, those would probably be like in the 7,000 still. It would probably be so damn large.
It really makes me wonder how this would have turned out if it got a show, because I will say this, basically the best way to sum it up, Todd in the Shadows, great YouTuber. We love you, Todd. Please come on the podcast sometime to talk about some more music videos. We love you. Okay, thanks. He once said something that most artists try to come out with an I'm here, bitch single, where the artist basically tries to pump themselves up being the next best thing. You're going to like me, you're going to love me, like Gabbo from The Simpsons. And a lot of times it fails because when it fails, it looks silly. But if Sweet Sea had been a success, I really feel that it would have been worth the way it looks and everything. It would have easily been worth it because I think that a show based on this would have been amazing. Would have done well in the ratings against stuff like Smurfs and Care Bears. It's hard to say because, again, the 1980s had such a crowded market for toy commercials. Like, there were 500 million fly-by-night toy commercials trying to make a quick buck, but this had effort, this had heart, this had so much love put into it, animation-wise and everything, that it really makes me wish we got more of this, if only to see Shiba, because that is just incredible.
I really gotta agree. Like, could this have gone up at something like Transformers, My Little Pony, Voltron, or even Dungeons and Dragons? Probably not. Would it have had a very strong impact nonetheless if it did? I think so. And the fact that this pilot never got a chance is kind of sad, really. Like, you see other pilots like Fish and Chips and all that stuff, and you feel sad, but then you see something like this that has actual effort put into it, like Fish and Chips for the most part, and you just ultimately feel sad and kind of wonder what could have ultimately been if it did decide to go up against them.
Very much so. And it really is something that's interesting because, again, I feel like there was such a way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see it.
What a missed opportunity here because everything about this, the animation, the voice cast was really good. And I looked it up, and the voice cast, aside from June Foray, were kind of prolific, but not to the extent like some other 80s shows. And again, would I have lived in a world where Sweet Sea was a huge thing instead of Care Bears? You know it. With that being said, that's going to tie into the question of the week, which is, what are your favorite June Foray roles? And I will say this right now, Shiba is disqualified. I'm saying this right here, right now, Shiba is disqualified. And I'm going to go first. I'm going to pick one that, for me, is actually a show I didn't really get to see until later on. I was introduced to it by my mom, who actually was a fan of it, and that is going to be Rocky and Bullwinkle, because she did 99% of the female voices on that show. She was Rocky, she was, of course, Natasha, and she was Nell in the Dudley Do-Right shorts, and She pretty much did every single female voice in the Fractured Fairy Tales, and she is so good in that she makes every single one of those characters sound different and unique, and it is amazing. When they made the infamous 2000 live-action Rocky and Bullwinkle movie, and yes, folks, we have been doing live-action versions of cartoons since the year 2000. Let that sink in. Even they knew they could not replace June Foray in the role. Even they knew that. And it just goes to show how good she is. Because, again, her back and forth with Paul Frees, another legend who plays Boris, their back and forth as Boris and Natasha is hysterical, like easily. If you go back and watch Rocky and Bullwinkle, the animation is really, really cheap. Like, I remember reading that they had got the cheapest animation studio they could get in the Western Hemisphere to do it, which is really saying something. But the writing, and especially the voice acting, Foray's included, is so good, you will overlook that easily. You could really tell they had so much fun with this. So, yeah, that's going to be my pick for my favorite June Foray roles. It's going to be her roles in the works of Jay Ward, which is Rocky and Natasha from Rocky and Bullwinkle, Nell from Dudley Do-Right, and all of the female voices in the Fractured Fairy Tales, which are really, really a great showcase of her talent. Like, if you don't know how talented she is, definitely go and check that out. Anyway, go ahead, Angron. What would your favorite June Foray role be?
That's going to be a little tricky because outside of Powerpuff Girls and maybe a few other stuff that I don't exactly know about too much, I would honestly kind of have to say Magica the Spell from DuckTales. Say what you will about some of her other roles like Granny and the teacher from Flapjack, a few other stuff that I'm probably not thinking of, especially Duck Dodger, also Grandmother Fa and Mama Briccoloni. I'm definitely going to have to say Magica the Spell because not only is it the most iconic voice of hers, second only to maybe the voice from the 2017 DuckTales. Honestly, this one has so much character because, like, it's one that I grew up with a bit more. I didn't watch DuckTales all that much, but I did absolutely know about Magica the Spell and that voice. You want to know how iconic it is? 2013 Tales reboot got June Foray to reprise her role as Magica the Spell in that game, and it worked so much. I also know of a certain friend who is part of the server we're in, that Suki cat, who very much simps hard for Magica the Spell as well. Like, she has a crow who is pretty much her sidekick, like Maleficent. Her brand of magic would pretty much to give Gruntilda a run for her money. So, for all intents and purposes, I'm definitely going to pick Magica the Spell for a little bit of nostalgic touch and just the fact that it's Magica. Not doing her would kind of be a disservice to her altogether.
Magica really became popular, at least in the United States, because of that. Donald comics were huge throughout Europe. Yeah, she does a great job voicing the character, and again, it really is a shame that they couldn't get her for 2017 DuckTales. I think she passed on just a year earlier. But with that being said, she really defined the character so much that when I watch the new one, I actually have a hard time hearing that as Magica, to be honest, because I'm so used to her voice as the character. She does such a fabulous job as it. Anyway, Math, what would your pick be?
Special shout out to the character we mentioned in this cartoon because she does the Witch Hazel voice, a character that she was so good at and so well known for. She voiced that character for both Disney and WB. That is insane. Nothing ever happens cross between those two companies like that. My personal choice, and this is going to be a weird curveball because this is very specific to me. I've mentioned before in a previous episode that my favorite Disney short of all time is Lambert the Sheepish Lion. She voices Lambert's mother. Because of how much I really like that short, that's my favorite character of hers that she's been. And again, I fully admit, this is just a personal thing because that special really clicked with me so much. I love all the characters in that. So for her to be the voice of the mother character is really touching to me. And that's why it connects so well to me personally. It's not her best voice. It's actually very simple what she does in that, but the emotional connection that matters for this.
I 100% agree. I haven't seen the Lambert the Sheepish Lion short in a very long while, but learning that she was part of that, that's pretty amazing.
Shark, what would your pick be?
Also, the obvious Shiva answer, because wow, she really did a good job with this character. I think I'm gonna go with one of the most iconic characters she has done, because yeah, it's a very popular character, and that's Granny from Looney Tunes.
Yep. She voiced the character, believe it or not, for something like 60 years straight.
Yeah, and like honestly, yeah, that character, is one of the most iconic cartoon characters you probably know. And yeah, it was her, and like, you can tell why she's very talented. Whatever feeling she had with her, whether it's comedic or even in other more serious Looney Tunes shorts, even more dramatic, it always worked. And honestly, well, not much to say. Just like everybody knows Granny, and thanks to June, it was her who made that character become what she is today. And yeah, like it's kind of funny because she did voice that character until she was like the same age as the character. So, yep, she lived to become her. So that's a funny thing to think.
And just to put a pin on how talented June Foray was, someone once told Chuck Jones that June Foray was the female Mel Blanc. Chuck retorted that Mel Blanc was the male June Foray.
Yeah.
That is how talented that she was. Sadly, they were not friends, apparently, between her and Mel Blanc. I've heard like stories of them not really being friends, but oh well, can't have everything. With that being said, she really was such a legend, and Sweet Sea was such a great showcase for her talents, which now ties into the patent-pending Dragoness Scale, where we're going to rank Sheba. And, gee, I wonder what score she's going to get.
Mystery.
Yeah. Better than mystery in that case. Yeah, I'm not going to be around the bush. I'm just going to kind of say 10. 10. I mean, if you don't know why we're giving her a 10, you have not been paying attention for the past hour or so, because we have done nothing but gush about her design, about her voice, about the animation to her. There is literally nothing wrong with this character. There is literally nothing I could say about this character that I could change, because this is so... She is such an amazing, amazing character. Pretty much done everything we needed to say about her. So, Angron, what would you give her?
I'm also going to give her a 10 out of 10, and I'm also going to agree with everything you said about her. She's amazing. As a villain, she's pretty damn effective. She actually obtains her goal and ultimately becomes ruler of the Coral Kingdom. My only real problem is the fact that she doesn't really do anything with that power. Yeah, it makes sense. She's vain. She's very much a narcissist, which, let's be perfectly frank, absolutely adds to her character. Yeah, she doesn't really do much. For the most part, she's all talk. Like, yeah, implied skeletons in her lair aside, she doesn't really do all that much. I mean, sure, she orders around Squidly and ultimately captures her. She's very cold. She's very calculated. She's absolutely psychotic, and just seeing her is absolutely an amazing thing. I just wish she kind of did a little more. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the whole point of her villain style, as it were. But I do think a little more could have been warranted. But that said, she definitely still deserves that 10 out of 10 for the fact that it's June Foray voicing her. And it's the fact that, as a whole, Sheba is an amazing villain that we were honestly robbed of.
She is such an amazing, well-made character. And I will kind of counteract that, because when you think about it, she really won. She won on a scale that a lot of villains don't, because she took over the whole kingdom. Everyone was going to leave just because she was going to be the ruler. And if she's that feared, you know, that says something about her. But let's see, Matt, what would you give her?
Yeah, I wonder what the animation guy that's been gushing about her nonstop is going to give her. Obviously a 10, yeah. So, first from the design department, Jesus, this is so good. Her design, the way that they've animated her, the way that they've done everything with her is astounding. It's so weird that we've covered so many cute or so many sweet or so many well-designed characters. This is one of the few that I can actively say is actually attractive. Not just like, oh, we like scaly women attractive. Like, the way that they have drawn her and animated her and designed her, she is attractive. By every typical metric, she is really good to look at. And just no notes on that. Really good looking character, really great design, really great animation. Voice June Foray, obviously that's a win. She has the best jokes in this. she has so much screen time in this. She has turned me into a Disney princess because when it comes to Sheba, I want more.
Pretty much everything we needed to say about her. So let's see, Shark, what would you give her?
Ooh, I wonder. But yep, here we got another perfect 10 character because that's what I'm giving her. And yeah, everything about her is great. Like the voice acting, we discussed the voice actor a lot here. It's perfect. The animation, it's clear that she was fun to work with for the animator. She has a lot of expressions. She has a lot of movement, and like in the story, like she's actually a threat because, like you said, she actually wins, and we actually get to see the consequences of her victories. So that she's no joke. That's a fact. Yeah, if the worst thing I can say about the character is that we want more, then it's a great character. Like, we wish the show was picked up, not because of the main characters, but it would have meant more Shiva. We wish Shiva would have got some sort of toy or merchandise at the very least to show how popular she was. And like, if there's something we have discussed in the whole podcast is Shiva. So yep, here we got another perfect 10 out of 10 character.
The thing that is really, really amazing as a whole is that this is the shortest drought since perfect score characters that we've had, because the most recent one was Mona Lisa, which is only 4 weeks earlier. And then from then was 4 weeks earlier from that was Ankh from Ivar Time Walker. So really something to point out there. Been getting a lot of really good characters. And hopefully this doesn't mean that we get some of the lesser characters, but in a couple of weeks you might have an interesting one. See if she gets a perfect score. For now, that'll be it for this week. If you have any questions, or if you want to say if you want Bell Bottoms to meet up with Sheba, you can feel free to email us at FieryDiscourse@outlook.com. Visit us on Twitter at twitter.com/FieryDiscourse. Be sure to subscribe to the Fiery Discourse YouTube channel and subscribe to the playlist. Like and hit the bell icon. Leave a comment. Any and all comments are appreciated. Also, one of our co-hosts, Lucky Evie, is looking to move to a group home in the UK. That will also be in the description. Any and all help for that is appreciated. Next week, we're going to be talking about the 2006 movie Dragon Hill 2, aka El Cubo Mágico. And that's going to be really something else, because if you thought the first Dragon Hill was fun, you haven't seen anything yet, because they pull a Disney, and this is a semi-pilot for a television show stapled into a movie.
Also, more Galadriel.
Yep, we get lots more of her compared to the first one, so maybe she will get a better score than she did the first time. We're going to have to see about that. But that'll be it for this week. And until then, thank you all so much for watching, and take care.
So,
Later.
Victors.
Adios. See you all next week.